This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Deb Bacon-Ziegler in Lansing, Michigan. The Spinster Book by Myrtle Reed. Chapter 10. The Consolations of Spinsterhood. The attached members of the community are wont to make what Uncle Remus called a great miration when a woman deliberately chooses spinsterhood as her lot in life, rather than marriage. There is an implied pity in their delicate inquiries, and always the insinuation that the spinster in question could never have had an offer of marriage. The husband of the lady leading the inquisition may have been one of the spinster's first admirers, but it is never safe to say so, for so simple a thing as this has been known to cause trouble in families. If it is known positively that some man has offered her his name and his troubles, and there is still no solitaire to be seen, the logical hypothesis is charitably advanced that she has been disappointed in love. It is possible for a spinster to be disappointed in lovers, but only the married are ever disappointed in love. The married women who ask the questions and who, with gracious kindness, hunt up attractive men for the unfortunate young woman to meet, are, all unknowingly, one great cause of stagnation in the marriage license market. Nothing so pleases a woman safely inside the bonds of holy matrimony as to confide her sorrows, her regrets, and her broken ideals to her unattached friends. Many a woman thinks her ideal is broken when it is only sprained, but the effect is the same. Was the coffee weak, and were the waffles cold, and did Monsieur express his opinion of such a breakfast in language more concise than elegant? Madame weeps, and gives a lurid account of the event to the visiting spinster. By any chance, does a girl go from her own dainty and orderly room into an apartment strewn with masculine belongings, confounded upon confusion such as Milton never dreamed? Does she have to wait while her friend restores order to the chaos? If so, she puts it down in her mental notebook upon the page headed "Against." The small domestic irritations which crowd upon the attached woman from day to day, leaving crow's feet around her eyes and delicate tracery in her forehead, have a certain effect upon the observing. But worse than this is the spectre of the other woman, which haunts her friend from day to the grave, and after, if the dead could tell their thoughts. If she has been safely shielded from books which were not written for the young person, Mademoiselle believes that marriage is a bond which is not to be broken except by death. It is a severe shock when she first discovers that death changes nothing, that it is only life which separates utterly. That pitiful story of the other woman comes from quarters which the uninitiated would never suspect. With grim loyalty, married women hide their hearts from each other. Many a smile conceals a tortured soul. When the burden is no longer to be borne, a spinster is asked to share it. A woman will forgive a man anything except disloyalty to herself. Crimes which the law stands ready to punish rank as naught with her, if the love between them is untarnished by doubt or mistrust. Any offense prompted by her own charm, even a duel to the death with a rival suitor, is easily condoned. But though God may be able to forgive disloyalty, in her heart of hearts no woman ever can. More often than not, it is simply an idle flirtation, or, at the most, a passing fancy which the next week may prove transient and unreal. The woman with the heartache will say, with wet eyes and quivering lips, "I know positively that my husband has done nothing wrong. I would go to the stake upon that belief. He is only weak and foolish and a little vain perhaps, and some day he will see his mistake, but I cannot bear to see him compromise himself and me in the eyes of the world. Of course, I know," she will say proudly, "but there are others who do not, who are always ready to suspect, and I will not have them pity me. When nearly all the married friends a spinster has have come to her with the same story, the variations being individual and of slight moment, she begins to have serious doubts of matrimony as a satisfactory career. Women who have been married 5, 10, and even 20 years, women with children grown and whom the world counts safely and happily married, will sob bitterly in the embrace of the chosen girl-friend. Indifference is the only counsel one has to offer, but even so it gradually becomes the first of the steps upon the heartway which lead to an emotional Siberia. Of course there are women who are insanely jealous of their husbands, and, more rarely, men who are jealous of their wives. Jealousy may be explained as innate vanity and selfishness or as a defect in temperament, but at any rate, it is a condition which is far past the theoretical stage. It is hard for a spinster to understand why any woman should wish to hold a man against his will. A dog who has to be kept chained in order to be retained as a pet is never a very satisfactory possession. It seems natural to apply the same reasoning to human affairs, for surely no love is worth having which is not a free gift. No girl would feel particularly flattered by a proposal if it were put in this form: "Will you marry me? No one else will." Yet the same girl, married, would gladly take her husband to a desert island that she might be sure of him forever. Love which needs to be put behind prison bars, that it may not escape, is not love, but attraction, fascination, or whatever the psychologist may please. A man chooses his wife, not because there are no other women, but in spite of them. It is a pathetic acknowledgment of his poor judgment if he lets the world suspect that his choice was wrong. There are some souls that hie them far away from civilization, to convents, monasteries, and western plains, that they may keep away from temptation. In the same fashion, woman tries to isolate her lord and master. If he meets women at all, they are those invisibly labeled not dangerous. The world makes as many saints as sinners, and the man who needs to be kept away from any sort of temptation is weak indeed. There are many of his kind, but he is the better man in the end who meets it face to face, fights with it like a soldier, and wins like a king. The mother of Sparta bade her son return with his shield or on it, and the thought has potential might today. If a man honestly loves a woman, she need have no fear of the 1,000 foes that wait to take him from her. If he does not, the sooner she understands the truth, the better it is for both. There are many people who consider love a dream, but they usually grow to think of marriage as the cold breakfast. Men are but children of a larger growth. A small boy forgets his promise to stay at home and tears madly down the street in the discordant wake of a band. The same boy, in later years, will follow his impulses with equal readiness, for he is taught conformity to outward laws, but very seldom self-control. The fear of the other woman may be largely assuaged by a spinster's confidence in her ability to cope with a difficult situation, should it ever present itself, but there are other considerations which act as a discouragement to matrimony. The chains of love may be sweet bondage, but freedom is hardly less dear. The spinster, like the wind, may go where she listeth, and there is no one to say her nay. A modern essayist has pointed out that, if a mortal knows his mate cannot get away, he is apt to be severe and unreasonable. The thought of being compelled to ask for money, and perhaps to meet with refusal, frequently acts as a deterrent upon incipient love. A man is often generous with his sweetheart, and miserly with his wife. In the days of courtship, the dollars may fly on wings in search of pleasure for the well-beloved, and yet, after marriage, they will be squeezed until